Shabbat Shalom, family. Good to see you all. Hope you're doing well. Well, we got another bee swarm. I think this one tops all of them, although that last one was pretty crazy. And why are there so many this year? It seems to be, it's like every so many weeks there's another massive bee swarm. And we know that's a plague. We know it is. So I think the last one I did, they discovered over 1 billion bees at a New York cemetery. And they estimated that they'd been there for probably more than 100 years. So they decided not to disturb them. It wouldn't be wise to disturb over 1 billion bees. That's like absolutely insane. So they left them alone. And I don't think that was a real active cemetery. Just from the looks of it, it probably hasn't been anybody buried there probably more than 100 years. There's a lot of old cemeteries around this country that people are just not buried in no more. So this one, y'all, take the cake. So I learned a lot about this particular place in Texas, and it's not good. So let's get into it. So, in Orange County, Texas, there was someone driving a truck. On this truck, ladies and gentlemen, was 408. Listen to me now. 408 bee colonies were on this truck. So hives. 408 on one truck. And I'm thinking to myself, why would somebody be driving around with 408 beehives on a truck? Well, it gets worse. The truck flipped over. The truck flipped over, y'all. It flipped all the way over. And all the bees came out, which they're estimating over 2 million bees. Wait until you see the swarm. It was absolutely crazy. It was in a town called Mauriceville in Orange County, Texas. So I went to look this place up because I always like to see what kind of history it had. Woo! Orange County, Texas got a violent ass history. The black men and women that was there, especially during Jim Crow. Look, y'all, they said they mess with them folks. They said the violence towards the black men, women, and children in that county was severe. They called it severe. That's how much those folks were messing with them. There were many lynchings in Orange County, Texas. And if you were the unfortunate one to live there, they gave our people pure hell. Pure hell. Yeah, I would imagine it's sundown. Sound like the whole county is sundown from what I read. Yeah, so there were many lynchings, a lot of violence, and our people could not live in peace in that county. And Mauriceville was a heavy participant in bringing down violence on our people. Well, that's where the bee swarm happened. 2 million bees. And they called themselves trying to capture these bees, y'all. And the very next day, the bees got out again. So, what they were trying to contain them in did not contain them at all. The next day, the bees swarmed the same area again. They told people to get in the house, close their windows, close their doors, and avoid going outdoors. It was that bad. It was that bad. I always do that though. Whenever something happens in the South, I always go and look up those towns to see what kind of history it has. But man, Orange County said the violence was severe on our people. Woo! I tell you what, you see how the Most High will show you a lot of history that you might not have heard before in some of these towns. It's a rural area from what I was reading. Orange County is very rural. So, y'all, let's get into it. Man, wait until you see these videos. And I'm noticing our people are very observant and they are noticing these multiple bee swarms, and just pay attention to where they are in old cemeteries over in Israel at the White. In fact, the Israel story was the first one I did, and to this day, they don't know where those bees came from. They don't know where that swarm came from over in Israel. Came from the Most High, right? We know where it came from. And weeks later, the White House got swarmed. Israel and then the White House. And then they found those billions of bees in a cemetery in New York. And we know slavery was in New York. Slavery was very prevalent. Look, Wall Street, that's where slaves were first sold. Because for many years when I was going to school, they used to always try to pretend like slavery was just in the South. And it wasn't until later on I found out, no, it was in the North. It was even in New Jersey, where I am. New Jersey got a slave cemetery. In fact, wherever you see water around here, on those docks, that's where auctions used to take place. So it was in Camden, down by the waterfront. That's where slaves were sold. And I used to always ask myself, why is Camden so black? That's why Camden, a lot of those people are direct descendants of the slaves that were sold from those docks, from the waterfront. But this is what they never teach you. Yeah. Yeah, y'all. So let's get into this bee swarm. This happened last Sunday. That's when this happened. All right, y'all. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Give me a 1. Oh, honey, judgment is here. It's real. And look at how the Most High is dealing with these groups that have not been so kind to us. First, the Latinos, and trust me, they're still catching hell from ICE. They're just not putting it in the news as much as they did, but it hasn't stopped. They are still catching all kinds of hell from ICE. And now it's turning on the Haitians and the Syrians. You notice how he's dealing with these people one by one. And look at the Asians. Look at that. That is just us taking our money away from the Asian community. Y'all, that's judgment. That's judgment. They were allowed to come up in here and make all kinds of money at our expense. And look at how fast the Most High has taken their money away. He is dealing with each and every one of these groups one by one. He is dealing with them. Never, ever underestimate the power of the Heavenly Father. Thank you for the ones, y'all.
We gotta be living in a simulation because this shit can't be real life. If you live in Texas, then you need to hear this because millions of bees are now flying around in Texas after an 18-wheeler carrying 400 beehives flipped over. You heard what I just said? A semi-trailer carrying about 400 beehives flipped over in Orange County, Texas. And every last bee that was in that trailer escaped. And this is just the bees that they showing you. I better be careful out there. Look at this shit right here. The truck just randomly turned over. Yeah, okay. We're talking about millions and millions of bees suddenly being released into one area. Now, Orange County Emergency Services is literally telling every resident to remain indoors. They're saying stay your ass inside if you're in that area because there's a heavy bee present. And that's not a recommendation, that's a warning. And here's the crazy part. It's not exactly clear how long these bees are going to be in that area. Now, think about all the people that's allergic to bees. Think about those bees just coming in your house. Windows open, door open. If flies can randomly get in your house, then you know damn well bees can get in your house. You ever been stung by a bee? You know those bee stings don't go right with certain people. And listen to this. All it'll take is one person disturbing a swarm, one allergic reaction, or one bad situation, and this whole story becomes more serious than you ever thought. So if you're anywhere near Orange County, Texas, stay your ass in the house. Pay attention to local updates and be careful. I'm out.
These are bees, millions of them, in fact. Over the weekend, the truck carrying hives from a bee supply company overturned. Authorities told nearby residents to remain inside their homes. And at one point, there were so many bees gathered on a tree that the branch actually snapped off. Beekeepers sprung into action to save as many bees as they could, transporting them to a local farm.
We're back with millions of honeybees accidentally set free in Texas. They were being carried in a semi-trailer that tipped over Sunday. Reports say the truck was hauling more than 400 hives to North Dakota. No bee stings nor injuries have been reported. One insect expert says only about a quarter of bees might survive.
All right, we're packing up.
Y'all, let's be real. They ain't getting all them bees. They ain't getting all them bees. They may collect some of them. They ain't get, that's millions and millions of bees that turned over in a truck. And to me, I'm shocked that they even had that many beehives in one truck. 408? That is outrageous. And to me, there can always be some mishap. Look at this. There's no damn way they're getting all these bees. It's no damn way. It's going to be a lot of them still there after they attempt to get as many as they want. It's still probably going to be hundreds of thousands of them, if not even well over 1 million of them left. Woo! Man, ain't no telling when them people can come out of their house.
So when we left last night, almost every one of these nukes were full of bees. We get here this morning and they're all up on the fence. So Yeah, so now we have to basically catch them again. So this is probably a very small percentage of them. As you can see, there are a lot of them. They're all over the boxes. Yep, we got my trusty mate out here, Mr. Richard. He's helping me do all this.
What do you mean millions of honeybees escaped into a Texas neighborhood, placing residents on lockdown after a semi-trailer carrying about 400 hives tipped over? Honestly, I'm not mad about it. Free the bees. But if you didn't know, millions of honeybees escaped into a rural Texas neighborhood after a semi-trailer carrying about 400 hives tipped over. Emergency officials in Orange County, Texas shut down roads in the area Sunday morning and warned residents to stay in their homes while crews worked to unload the trailer and salvage as many hives as possible. Aside volunteers from other beekeeping businesses, as you can see, Chris Moore, owner of Moore Honey, along with his son and several employees, joined the effort to help the bees, but he estimated that only about a quarter of the 408 hives will survive. It mostly depends on how many queens remain alive after the crash. The hives that crashed Sunday, like it says here, had only traveled a few miles on a trip to North Dakota when the truck driver took a wrong turn and ended up in a neighborhood with narrow roads. The driver was trying to navigate a tight corner when the trailer fell over. Other local keepers have put out catch boxes to collect remaining strays, but it will likely take a while for the insects to clear out of the area. This feels like a sign from God to stop abusing the motherfucking environment. Like, did we just not see the bee movie or anything growing up? We get a hashtag free the bees in the building here, people.
A man carrying flowers for a date was rushed to the hospital after a truck carrying 24 million bees overturned in a small Texas town. The 18-wheeler was driven by an Indian truck driver who was transporting the bees through the area. Officials believe the driver may have been tired behind the wheel when the truck flipped over. The crash damaged several bee boxes, causing millions of bees to escape at once.
Y'all, that was an East Indian truck driver. It was an East Indian truck driver. Didn't people say that they were not safe, that they were very dangerous and got in the most accidents, these East Indian truck drivers that are driving those big semi trucks? I heard that. I heard that a couple of years ago. And some of them aren't even licensed and can't speak the language. But yeah, this was done by one of them. And I heard from other truck drivers that are brothers that said these East Indians and many also of those Latinos that can't speak English get in the most accidents out here. They shouldn't even be on the road. But that's how this happened. So let's go on.
Once. At that moment, a man holding a bouquet of flowers was walking nearby, on his way to pick up his girlfriend for a date. The bees quickly surrounded him, likely drawn to the flowers. The man tried to run and wave them away, but the swarm followed him. He eventually threw the flowers on the ground and escaped the area. However, the bees had already stung him many times. Because he was allergic to bee stings, Emergency workers took him to the hospital for treatment. Local officials later blocked off the neighborhood around the truck and warned people to stay away. Emergency crews and bee experts were called in to help control the escaped bees and safely clear the area. Crews also worked to lift the overturned truck and remove the damaged bee boxes. What do you think?
Nah, here they go with the bullshit. You have a neighborhood in Texas on lockdown right now because 18-wheeler full of bees, millions of bees, carrying over 400 beehives, had just flipped over and all the bees escaped, y'all. Smell right to me. You just have millions of bees flying around in Texas. Now, are these original bees or AI bees? Look at this. And you have one instant expert says that only a quarter of those bees might survive. Now that was out in Orange County in Texas. Not only that, the Orange County Emergency Services, they telling people, stay your ass in the crib. Don't come out. There haven't been no stings, there haven't been no bites, haven't been nothing reported as far as right now. But they telling them, lock them doors, lock them windows, turn off the AC. Mind you don't even know how long these bees gonna be in that area. So how long they gonna be on lockdown? And what about the people who are allergic to the bees? What about the people who gotta go to work, who gotta come home? And if you have your dog outside, hey y'all, wasn't BG talking about some bees he wanted to release? Is it? Where was he even traveling with 400 bees anyway? Where you stealing them from, nigga? Now, do y'all feel something in the air, Beanie Siegel? Or shit happens? Comment down below and y'all let me know. Pay attention.
All right, y'all. This is some craziness right here. So, bees are probably one of the most brilliant engineers. They're literally engineers. They make those cones, those honeycombs, and they make the honey, and then they know how to collectively protect and safeguard their hives and their nests. They are brilliant. And you may not like bees, but they got an important role on this planet. If they did not pollinate the fruit trees, the fruits and vegetables that grow on the ground and in bushes and things all over this earth, we wouldn't eat. We eat because of the bees, the Most High created on this earth. When I started learning how important they are, it is no doubt they are a very special creature on this earth, whether you love them or not. They really are. And, I may get into a live, and I got to tell y'all something that's been happening to me. And it just started happening in the month of June. I fall asleep, and this never happened before. I've been falling asleep around the same time every single day. And I'm telling y'all, this never happened to me before. I would just go to sleep at different times at night, but around between 9 and 10 every night, I am in a dead sleep. Not only am I sleeping more, I'm dreaming more. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And I don't know. That's why I'm saying we got to be closer and closer to the end, because I even noticed my sleep pattern has dramatically changed, and it just started this month. And the dreams are happening a lot more frequently. And, maybe I'll do a live and I'll get into telling you about it a lot more often. But I almost slept into Sabbath. I had to be woken up to start my Sabbath. And I'm like, what is going on? what is going on? But it has to be the Most High. It has to be, because I mean, my pattern has dramatically changed, and I'm not talking about a little change, y'all. I'm telling you, my sleep has dramatically changed in just a matter of weeks. So, yes, I do believe this has everything to do with us being at the end of our captivity. I really, truly do. Yeah, Pride of Judah, you said you've been having end time dreams too. Yeah, I know I can't be the only one this is happening to. That is impossible, but that's what's happening. So, anyway, and I told y'all a few weeks ago I had a sleep paralysis. I had a sleep paralysis, and it literally felt like somebody was behind me pushing down on me, but it only lasted a few seconds and I came out of it. But yeah, it's I'm not scared or anything, but I notice changes are happening, you know, and we're going to be transforming, because we can't go into the kingdom with these bodies. Our bodies are all toxic from being in this Gentile world. And some of us are going to transform on the earth, and some of us are going to be taken, and you're going to be transformed somewhere else. And I would bet that if we're going to transform, we're probably going to be in a sleep through a lot of it. That's my guess. We'll probably be doing a lot of sleeping. So, this story was something that I had to come and tell you when I found out about it. And then when I found out about the county, that they said in Orange County, the biggest lynchings in Orange County occurred between 1877 and the 1950s. From that time span, Orange County was active in lynching our people in Texas. So, y'all, let me tell you something. The Most High is going to get not only the people, but these towns where our people had a hard time being in and living in, or we were just passing through and got caught up and got lynched. Yeah, those towns are going to be under heavy attack. Just like we're seeing now with these bees. Bees are brilliant to swarm with, because it's not like you can fire some weapon into a swarm of bees. You really can't do nothing to stop them. And you see what happened. They tried to contain them, and just overnight, because they can't fight 24/7 to get those bees back. So they put them in containers overnight, and they all got out again. That's why I'm saying it is no way they're going to be able to round up all these bees. It's just too many. It's probably going to be bees, a lot of them, in Orange County from here on, because they can't contain them all. They may get away with a few hundred thousands of them. They may be able to do that, but all of them, hell no. Yes, the earthquake. Yeah, the last I heard about Venezuela is in a bad state, y'all. It is bad. And I heard they may be, different countries are sending people in. I know China is sending some of their military in to help Venezuela, along with other countries. There are hundreds of collapsed buildings in Venezuela, and they estimate yesterday over 1,000 are gone that they were able to get out of the rubble. But there were still more than 40,000 people unaccounted for. Y'all, the toll is going to rise to an unbelievable level. And there have been hundreds of aftershocks going on there. And some of the aftershocks, from what I understand, are strong. That's why I'm saying, I would not be surprised if that toll goes up to 6 digits. But there are a lot of people missing in Venezuela. It is really unbelievable what's happening there. Yeah, 144,000. Yeah, but Venezuelans, they're also a people that have not been the nicest to our folks at all, because, they brought many of the gang members in, and those gangs, especially in places like Chicago, were literally fighting with our people who've been there in Chicago for generations. And these newcomers from Venezuela that got placed there, start fighting with the people, because, what they really want to do is drive the original residents out of there so they can take over the community. And that's the kind of stuff they've been doing. So I'm not shocked that this has happened in Venezuela. Not shocked. So, y'all, thank you for being here. I deeply appreciate it. And I do have more lives coming up because it is so many things happening, y'all. I never thought it would be so active in a short period of time, but it is. It really is. So, my next one is going to be on Ashley Gonzalez, y'all. They had to go through her cases. This woman got so many cases that are flagged because people are coming forward and saying, she was doing a lot of racist stuff out there before she lost her job with Houston PD, that right now over 75 of her arrests are flagged. They're probably going to have to let people go that are sitting in prison because of all the racism that she did when arresting our melanated people. Because, she was very clear she did not like Black people. And she went out of her way to do things to have them arrested. So, yeah, so her cases are being reviewed. And do you believe this little witch got the nerve to be trying to get her job back with Houston PD on top of that? So we're going to talk about that at 11:45 today. So I will see you then, and we'll have our Bible study at 1:45. So I will see you then. Have a wonderful Shabbat, family. Shabbat Shalom.